You can't mention Super Bowl without mentioning the Kansas City Chiefs. And guess what? Isaiah Pacheco on IR. It does not look good. Andy Reid came out. They asked him, I don't know if you saw this, Tyler. They said, what do you think about Isaiah Pacheco in his return? He said, this year or next year?
Yeah.
Which is not the answer you want to hear.
I don't think he's going to be back, like, truly, because he had to get surgery, right? He had to get bolts put. I don't think he's honestly going to be back this year.
It would be tough to bring him back.
Like late season, where it's fantasy playoffs and he's coming back. And does he even actually see a full workload when he comes back? Like, that's kind of the thing, too. I just, it's unfortunate.
Yeah, people are like, oh, do I trade for Isaiah Pacheco right now? I'm like, hell no. And nowhere near close to anywhere where his value is. If anything, he's like an add-on. And if you get lucky and he comes back, cool.
If people are thinking about trading for him, my gosh, I'd trade him away.
Yeah, trade him away. That's the player. If you can get anything for him right now, that's the time to do it. It's very obvious to me that he's not going to be back at least for a considerable amount of time. When you go get a guy like Kareem Hunt, that means we don't believe in this for like a 6 to 8 week thing. That means we need to get somebody who can carry the load just in case. And this is kind of a running back predicament now. We had Carson Steele, who looks like the guy, but the team decided to bring up Kareem Hunt for this week. So we know they signed him for that reason. Pat Mahomes had a lot of positive things to say about Kareem Hunt. You also have Samaje Perine, who had a little bit of work last week. And then the team also brought up Keontae Ingram, who I think is probably going to be out of the plans moving forward. Yeah. So now you got 3 guys: Carson Steele, Samaje Perine, and Kareem Hunt. I think Carson Steele, you can correct me and tell me what you think after this. I think Carson Steele is the guy who probably is going to see somewhere between 12 to 10 carries on a weekly basis, and almost no matter what. And I think we see Samaje Perine kind of lose this pass catching role he's had and develop more into like the third piece in this. And I think we see Kareem Hunt kind of take over some of the workload that he had in Cleveland as more of a backup for now. Maybe some passing game work, maybe some red zone work.
No, I agree. The only thing I will say is, like, watching that Dallas game last night, Zeke's clearly like toast.
Cooked.
And he's cooked. And that's the one thing I will say too, is that this team, which could also speak to Clyde Edwards-Helaire, like maybe he's not going to be ready to come back anytime soon. Yeah. Maybe he's still dealing with stuff too. So he's also an interesting piece in this as well. So, but I think that when I look at this, I want to believe that Kareem Hunt is probably going to take on a decent amount of work in this offense, but there could also be a situation where, like, yes, this team brought him back because he knows the system. He's comfortable probably here. He knows all these guys, but like it could be a situation with Zeke where like he could just absolutely be cooked. And he doesn't, like, he's just not efficient. They can't trust him out there because he's just not any good anymore. So I think that he's definitely a guy though, like, that should be on all 12 team rosters, because if he does look pretty decent, I guarantee you he'll probably eventually, I don't want to say overtake Carson Steele.
No, you're on it. I think you're on it.
Like, we'll see a good workload going forward on one of the best offense in the league. So he's somebody, like, I still think that these 3 guys should be rostered if you're able to just hold them for this week and kind of see how it plays out. Because the other thing with Samaje Perine too is, I will say this, like, he's still new to this team. It's still, like, he's still a new piece here. I don't think that'll ever overtake anybody, like, and be the guy. But I do think, like, we've seen it with Jerick McKinnon in the past too, where like this team just has this pass catcher that is involved in the offense. And it's Isaiah Pacheco early on was the early down grinder, and he didn't really have any passing down role. And like that could maybe be Samaje Perine. So it's still like a work in progress. And I would want to have at least one of these guys if they're available. But we'll see how this week plays out. It'll be interesting.
It really could be like a frustrating situation, because there's going to be a point where I think people are like, finally, we trust it back. And then somebody else is going to take over a little bit more. So I think the way I would play this is like, if I was looking for a safe flex option, it's Carson Steele right now. I think he's the safest guy out of this entire backfield and has probably the most guaranteed workload, I would say, over the time that Isaiah Pacheco is either out for, limited time or for the rest of the season. And I think the player I'd rather have next, I get what you're saying about Perine having like a pass catching role, but I still think Kareem Hunt just offers so much more upside because if he does take over some more carries or additional touches, like then we're talking about a potential RB3 here. I think if he's able to overtake Carson Steele due to the pass catching upside, due to the touchdown upside, now we're talking about somebody that can start for us if we were desperate at running back, especially over bye weeks. The one concern I have about P. Ryan is that like we've never seen him be a 12 to 15 touch guy. And when we have, it's been very subpar results. Whereas like Kareem Hunt, even last year in Cleveland, he was seeing like, 12 carries or like 2 to 3 touches in the passing game. So I think we could even see like a 50-50 split, or maybe it's a 40-40 with 20 split. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Either way, it's going to be an ugly committee, and you're probably playing some kind of roulette when it comes to all three of these guys in the passing situation. One more thing before we get off the Chiefs, though. Obviously, with the running backs being kind of a dart throw, we've really seen Rashee Rice take over this receiving core. And Pat Mahomes came out and said, look, we can get him 2,000 yards. The teams are going to defend Travis Kelce the way they are. So some of that kind of feels like a little bit of quarterback speak, like, yo, give us some room to throw to Kelce and get him involved. Are you buying a bounce back at all for Travis Kelce? Do you have him ranked in your top 3 tight ends still? Like, where are you at on Kelce?
It's tough, man. Like the only thing that's given me a little bit of hope, right, is just he was phenomenal during the playoffs last year. And I know that there was a little bit of decline, obviously, for the whole season, but like in the playoffs, the dude was eaten. So I don't think he's washed. But like the biggest problem for Kelce, though, is just kind of like the player that Rashee Rice is. Like this is a guy who's he's seen this low. I don't know if it's so much this year, but he's been a low A dot kind of guy. So he's closer to the line of scrimmage. And I just feel like he's kind of eating into what Kelce does best. And he's kind of becoming Patrick Mahomes' like safety valve when that's always been Travis Kelce. And his emergence is like, I don't I don't know. I don't know exactly what it is, or it could just be Kelce being washed. I'm not able to like look at it and be able to say I know exactly what it is, but it is very concerning. Like we're now at 3 weeks and Travis Kelce hasn't done anything. And if it happens again this week, Travis Kelce goes out there like 2 catches, 20 yards. Like, man, th- this is not good. This isn't good. And
there's no other way to put it.
no, and one thing I do want to say, because I was going to say this during the running back thing too. I want to make sure I say this real quick. I do think it's interesting though that Kansas City brought in Kareem Hunt, but they had the option to, but instead when Samaje P. Ryan got released, they picked him up right away. I just think that that's still interesting.
Good point. Good point.
Like I don't want to, and once again, I see the upside for all these guys. But once again, I just want to drop P. Ryan if I'm able to hold on to him. I'll just wait to see what happens. But Kelce, yeah, I mean, I'm definitely concerned. He's not currently, but the tight end position also, it's just, oh my God, it's been so bad.
I hear you on the P. Ryan point too. Like they would have taken Kareem Hunt instead. Like they had an opportunity to bring him in and they didn't. So
yeah,
I also think, what kind of workload do you give a Samaje P. Ryan versus like the role that you have for Kareem Hunt? So I hear you on that, but I also think like they brought in Kareem Hunt for a different type of reason would be my only kickback there. As far as Kelce goes, it's concerning because it feels like Rashee Rice is the new Kelce. There's no other way to put it. Like he is Kelce now. And I don't think he's cooked because I still think he's cooked. I still think he belongs in like the top 3 tight ends, and I think we'll see better days. It's just not. We're so used to seeing 100 catch, 1,200 yard, or like we're used to seeing that version of Kelce, and I think we get this 800 yard to 1,000 version of Kelce as opposed to it. So I think we'll see a splash game. It could come as soon as this week, I think, against the Chargers. Where they're like, hey, we got to get our guy involved. No Derwin James there on the other side for the Chargers. So that's typically been the guy that's like shut down Kelce. I think we should get a bounce back here very soon. So I don't know about cooked. I don't know about washed. And I think it's a buy low opportunity. But if he does have a bad game, now it's like, do you bench Travis Kelce? That becomes now the new question, which is insane to say.
And what I'll say too is like, I don't know what's going on, because even like Patrick Mahomes isn't playing that well. Like he's not like, I don't know. Like maybe they're just trying to figure out a lot of different things. Like, you got some new players in here. This offense has not been what it has been in the past. Like, I still think that like there's potential to be one of the best offenses in the league. But
And that was
I
the
mean,
whole talk this offseason, is that everything was going to go like downfield and we're going to see
yeah,
better from Mahomes.
and like right now, he has 5 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Like, it hasn't been great. Um, But yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Like, maybe the answer is to get Kelce more involved. It's still like I don't want to say I'm fully panicking. I'm like concerned for sure with Travis Kelce. But then on the flip side, like I said, oh, you're concerned for all these tight ends. Like, there's no
Yeah.
good tight end except Trey McBride. I think Trey McBride's the one tight end. You can say Dalton Kincaid, but like he's been a little bit inconsistent as well. So I don't know. It's just it doesn't look good.
It feels like, I don't know, it feels like maybe teams are kind of like scheming really hard against, like, we're not going to let you beat us deep and we're not going to let you beat us with Kelce. Just keep
Yeah.
throwing to Rashee Rice. And it's like, they actually, you know what? It's kind of interesting because that's what they used to do with, like, it was Kelce and Tyreek. I mean, there was that season where teams like took away Tyreek. So it almost feels like maybe you could throw, like, maybe the scouting report on Mahomes is like, if you can throw off like his number one guy, it'll throw him off. The thing is, they've been winning games. So
Yeah,
you
they're
can't.
still winning, right?
Yeah, still winning games.